Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Council of Fans podcast episode. Whatever I think now, I'm not sure of the number, but we still have the regular people back again. Firstly, Hen. Hello, my friend.
Hi.
Also, we have Talking to you, Becky Galafine. Hello, my friend.
Great to be here.
And his channel will, as always, be in the description below. And finally, after a few episodes returning, we have Mr. Penguin Poppins.
Hey, glad to be back.
Indeed, great to have you back as well. And even though we have Penguin back, we do not have Nikki for this episode as she is out filming something. So yeah, I hope she has fun there. But either way, we still have a lot to discuss. And before we get into it, you can probably, hopefully, this, if you're hearing this, that means my thing has worked and there's a new format of how this looks on screen where you should be able to see all of our names and then our icons, etc., and that will show and be at the bottom left corner and show when someone is speaking, and much easier than just going around in a circle on a pretty lightly edited table. So yeah, maybe upping production quality a bit, but either way, as you can tell from the title, it is basically a recap of everything recently that's come out about this Amazon Lord of the Rings show, as because blimey, there is quite a lot. And I think, do you think it's best we start chronologically with the Valinor picture because, or Valinor, Tyrion, whatever, two trees? Do you think it's good to start off there? And what we're going to do is a recap of everything, give our opinions on it over recently, because normally it's been just giving the news, and then I know we did a full episode on the trees, but after 2-3 weeks glance, we can have some updated thoughts as well. So does that seem good, guys? So let's get right into it. So firstly, of course, we have this picture, which is chronologically the first thing. And I think what's the best first thing that we could take from this? I think we can leave to the side the stuff around the two trees, etc. That's been talked about a lot, but realistically, it's after we first come out is who's in the picture. Do you think that still has an important part to play?
Does it matter really who's in the picture? Because it's just, it's a tableau. Of the city is the subject of the shot, let's say. So I'm not sure that it's really that important who it is that's in the shot. Could be Galadriel, could be someone else. I don't know. Don't really care all that much.
I agree, because I think especially with all that the Marvel fan have done, which is speculate a ton, although this character would definitely maybe give us a direction of like, who they're gonna have as a protagonist or antagonist. It's just gonna cause a bunch of speculation, and 98% of that speculation is gonna be false. And the 2% that's right is just because, well, you're bound to get something right.
I'm going to go out on a different limb and say I'm guessing that the picture is Galadriel. We know that Morfydd Clark said it's going to have a physical component. We've got laws and customs among the Eldar, and where you can see that there's nothing that says that you can't see women fighting elf women fighting, and it's 2021. It's going to be 2022 when this is released. Fantasy. So I'm going to bet that that's Galadriel, even though she's got looks like her hair up and she's holding a sword. My 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people also mention her hair. It looks like it's brown. Yeah, but also her head is like 30 by 30 pixels about, so you can't really get
Yeah,
an
and
accurate
I
depiction
think I
of
think the
what her hair will
blonde.
actually look like.
I
And there's the
think
fur
just
and all
the,
that
the
stuff.
it's I think it's the dappled light that's kind of drowning out the blonde.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking as a blonde, even though it's gotten darker as I've gotten older, yeah, that's something that happens. Put my hair in direct light, it looks light. Put it in shadow, it looks dark. So
Or
that's
put it
that's
in a
not an
bun.
issue to me. Excuse me, put it in a bun. Yeah, rock that man bun.
Yeah, and of course, just as a side thing, I think we've personally heard as well that maybe, well, from someone at the show that I don't think this has been released yet. I'm not gonna probably release as a thing like on the show or anything, but that the actual image of the person on the hill and the characters apparently an actual like actor. Do you remember when I showed you guys this? And then the rest thing is just blue screen. So the thing on the person on that hill is actually a shot, well, like an actor, like actually
sure.
there, and then
Yeah, that looks real. Yeah.
and the
So
hill.
wait a second. You're saying they did not build the entire set of Tyrion, and they did not make giant trees, miles away and light them up. Are you trying to tell me this is all special effects wizardry? God,
No, they made the hill as well. The
Or
hill's real.
Copilot.
The hill's real.
Yeah.
They made a hill.
Yeah, they made the hill. That's the big news. That's why I've left it
No.
to the Council of Fans podcast. They've got a hill and they've got someone in character.
Wait, so they made the hill?
Yeah, it's an actual hill. It's a real life hill.
No,
I think New
Yeah, but
Zealand
did they
made
make
the
it?
hill.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Did they create the hill? Okay, you go to New Zealand, which has this hilly, mountainous, volcanic, I guess at one point volcanic islands in the ocean. You know what, guys? I think we need a hill right here.
Well,
Production crew, make it happen.
well, if you remember,
That's what I'm
I
joking.
would be surprised, but sure.
yeah. I would first of all wouldn't put it past Amazon, and of course I'm not saying they made the hill. That is probably a New Zealand hill, but we had also heard stuff earlier on that some people were made on set on the show. They were the art department were making these massive forests from scratch. 18 hours, then it'd be taken down, but then it looks exactly like the forest they shot in earlier. Do you remember that from ages ago?
That's something that you will do. That's something building forests, sure.
Yeah, can we get a GIF of John Hammond saying "We spared no expense"?
Yeah, and
It wouldn't surprise me if they did like groom the grass or whatever the heck they do, and sort of nicen it up. But I don't think they'd go through the trouble of building a whole hill when they can just film 20 feet away on an actual hill.
I never meant that they actually built a physical hill, but at the same time, I wouldn't put it past Amazon doing that. So
Oh, I would.
Yeah, but it's something to talk about. It's fun,
and
Also, it's something I'd like to mention. A lot of people happen to think that the figure is Irindil, the mariner, Silmaril dude. Yeah, that's. I don't want to insult the theory too much, partially out of respect for one of the first people to come up with it, but you can see what looks to be like people throughout the crosswalks. I highlighted them in one of my videos, and even if they're not, maybe if it's just a coincidence and those are just like columns or something, you've still got that boat right there in the middle of the water. So either that boat is floating away with no people in it, or there's someone in it, and Tyrion is not empty, and it's not Irindil.
Isn't there another big reason why that wouldn't be Arendelle? I mean, two big reasons. To be fair, in my excitement, I kind of forgot about those two big reasons. But of course, the reasons being that both of the trees appear to be lit. So this is definitely first stage before before nightfall in Middle Earth, right?
but are they lit?
It's technically prior to first stage. It's years of the trees.
And
now we're arguing about when the first stage began, and that's a whole other topic.
but
also, I'm pretty sure he also had like the Silmaril on his forehead when he was in Tyrion. So
yeah, sure.
Unless he like literally taped it onto his forehead, I don't think he's got a Silmaril. But yeah, thinking about the trees, I kind of forgot about that. I'll be honest.
the final.
I mean, to be fair, I forgot about that too, and someone called me out.
And the final thing about the tree, I think Penguin mentioned that they were glowing themselves. There's like some radar picture taken that maybe looks like just the sun from behind. Maybe the two trees aren't actually glowing themselves, and that might be a potential thing. I have a picture on screen of that. I think I've forgotten what it's called. I think is it infrared, not infrared. That make it shows all the colors.
It's just a negative picture,
Yeah. Well, anyways, I think I think the biggest thing is that you could see, as TalkTube said, see people in this massive place that I think we can call Tyrion, but it's still
Which is a
technically
nice touch.
unconfirmed. But I think we will mention Tyrion later for I think a point Hen would like to say. But before we move on, the September 2nd release date. So is anyone here that sad that the release date, or frustrated that the release date is that far away?
I don't really care.
Yeah, again, this is what I think. Even though there are four of us, but I think the majority, we probably aren't representing what the majority would be thinking. Like, probably a lot of people watching this video will be saying, "Oh, so long away. I can't wait to see it. Oh, it's gonna be so hard to watch it." But I think all four of us are on the same wavelength that it's not like it's fine that it's September 2nd. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Two
I
ways
mean,
and I
I've
think-
got.
Yeah.
I'm as the elder statesman of the podcast. I guess I've waited for enough shows or enough movies in the past. I remember being so hyped for The Dark Knight and other stuff, and eventually you learn, okay, it's going to get here when it's get here. In the meantime, you've got plenty of stuff to take to occupy yourself until it comes. Let that do it.
Another reason is that we let's face it, we like investigating this show, and once it's out, we won't be doing as much investigating anymore. It will be more like interpretation and reactions to episodes and that sort of thing, rather than the kind of detective work that at least I sure am enjoying right now. So yeah, there's that. And just beyond that, just like that they're taking their time. That's a good thing.
They're not revealing. They're not giving away anything at this moment, and
They're
I'm
not,
I'm relishing the fact that we don't know. They could this entire thing could be all set within 1 year, 1706, and all the two trees and all that is just a flashback that they chose to drop on us. I mean, I doubt that's what's going to happen, but they could do something like that rather than Forging of the Rings or the Akabeleth or Last Alliance. We don't know.
I will say it's a pretty, using that shot of everything. It's a pretty nice marketing coup, because it gets a lot of talk going without actually revealing their hand at all, really. That way, it's very cleverly done. Reveal.
And I think that we probably not represented everyone's opinions there, because all four of us are on the same page. But I think we can't be naive and not see that there are probably a lot of people probably quite sad about that news. And I've of course heard from other people and other podcast stuff like that they are quite sad. Sounds like someone's
And
playing with it. Okay, wait.
You're also going to have a lot of people in the comments saying, I'd like the show to come out now, but whatever they need, just take as much time as you want. Which, I mean, I sort of agree with that. I mean, there's no reason for it to not come out now, except for, well, I mean, my YouTube channel, but I won't get into that. I've probably already said that a few times, but I think that's a little bit outside of the question here.
And I think that's just about it around the release date, September 2nd. Nothing else really major happens on September 2nd, so that's a nice thing. But I think that's about it. We know that post-production is going to be until June 2022. I think, was that what the release the what's it called, PR release said? Something around that. That's a long
Maybe.
No, Fellowship. This is when you say, this is what your spies told you. This is what your spies told you.
Oh yeah, my
Can't name any sources, but your spies told you this.
Yeah, but yeah, maybe my spies are gonna get myself captured one day, and I'll hope for that day not to come to pass. But who knows? The great eye of Amazon is looking over me.
Well,
From
you
his
still got that trailer
startup.
blackmail on Amazon, so you're good.
Yeah, it's all good until I get a cease and desist at my door the next day. But we'll just have to wait and see. Well, no, let's not wait and see what happens. Cause let's hope that does not happen. But, anyways, we have moved. I think I'll let Hen take over. So September 2nd. No, not September 2nd. We've got the Tyrion picture. Now moving on to the crew. Oh, the production moving to New Zealand. What does this mean?
Moving from New Zealand. you
Moving
mean?
from New Zealand.
Yeah, I think it's mostly to do like with New Zealand's very strict COVID, policy. Is very inhibiting for this production, and I think that's a pretty big reason, and it's a perfectly justifiable reason for a big production like this. As for what kind of impact will it have on the show, I think one of the most salient answers to that question is look at that shot of Eleanor. That's going to look the same no matter what country the show is in. And I think most of the big environments would be like that. The establishing shots will naturally be, CGI, and they'll either be in a landscape that's constructed digitally, which is the case here, or they will be in a natural landscape, but just a plate that they've already shot. They can use it over again. So I don't think the main locations will look different, and because the premise of the show is in all likelihood not a road movie, it will be very much kind of anchored to these environments, and therefore we shouldn't be able to notice the change in location because of that. I'm sure they'll have scenes outside. It won't be like a talking in rooms type show. Like Game of Thrones is the same kind of premise, and God knows that has shots outside. But they won't be those big tracking shots like those big helicopter shots, or like a crane from kilometer away with a huge telephoto lens. It will be like closer up. You'll be able to disguise the fact that you're shooting in a different country much more easily, I think.
I do think maybe that's gone a bit. Maybe like it's gone like maybe a bit over the top, a bit bigger. That oh no, how the seat is gonna look completely different. How is Amazon going to do this? Like panic over that.
I won't think it. I don't think it should necessarily look that different. I'm trying to think. I can think of only one movie that I know that shot in both New Zealand and Britain, and that would be Willow, which is kind of funny because it's basically The Hobbit light, but it's shot in New Zealand and in Britain. And I'm not a. I watched it once or twice in my life, but I wouldn't be able to tell you which shot is which country, really. Occasionally I can say, oh, that's New Zealand, but generally I can't tell the transition. And I'm told it switches between the two countries within scenes back and forth, and I can't tell the difference. So,
Yeah.
and is it really in our interests as the viewers that the show be shot, or the movies for that matter, before it? Do we really want it to be shot in one country, or do we want the variety of multiple countries and what they have to
Yeah,
offer
that is
combined?
a good talking point because Penguin, I know straight away you would have preferred if Amazon made this decision maybe 2 years before in pre-production, that they had maybe gone to maybe either Scotland, the UK, etc.
I mean, whether they film it in Scotland, New Zealand, or the Brazilian rainforest kind of makes no difference, provided it's the wherever they go provides the and when they need to be outside provides the right environment for what it should look like. Of course, Hobbiton should not look like the plains of Texas. Rohan, by contrast, should not look like volcanic boulder fields like we saw in the movies. But for the most part, that was the only location that I had an issue with.
That's a great example, because on the commentary, once they get to Rohan, Jackson he says, well, you read the book and you imagine these kind of prairies, and he says, but New Zealand doesn't really have that landscape.
Yeah.
And I don't have a huge problem with the fact that it's not like the book, but I do think we could have had some pretty sweet kind of like plains, like in Dances with Wolves or something, really, really striking looking. If the movies were shot in more than one country, and they weren't, for various reasons, but they weren't. So yeah, sure.
And
Scotland has God knows Scotland and Ireland have some amazing
they
locations.
do, they do. First hand
Some of my
experience.
favorite movies were shot there.
So,
Yeah.
and I think another thing that one of these factors talking to you is, of course, the workers, New Zealand workers, how that has affected them potentially as well, and maybe the outcry. Because it does seem like after the aftermath of this, aftermath or whatever, is that it looks like New Zealand is quite wounded from this.
Yeah, so for anyone who hasn't been on Twitter a lot, which I mean you probably shouldn't be, or Reddit maybe, a lot of people are kind of angry because Amazon is moving away from New Zealand to the UK, and obviously all the people in New Zealand are losing their jobs, or not all, but all the I don't know, the people who set up the chairs, basically. I'm not trying to be insulting, just, sort of not like the editors or anyone. They're probably going to fly over, but all the people who are working on the set. And that's very unfortunate, but at the same time, all their jobs, they're not being replaced by robots. They are being replaced by people in the UK. So, yes, jobs are being lost, but people are also getting jobs at the same time. And my condolences to all the people who lost jobs. That's hard, and especially because I'd imagine New Zealand's pretty tightly locked down. At least that's what I've heard. I don't know how true it is, but I wish you the best finding a job.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point actually, because we get so carried out in this, carried in these kind of sort of politics really of like I don't know like actors' equity and people's jobs, and that's all fine, but I think that you don't know the intricacies of the economy of the screen sector in New Zealand and how to compare it. It's a very complicated topic that we really can't do justice with. And in that sense, I think, we're here to kind of talk about the show as a show. And really, it's the sort of thing, it's going to sound mercenary as hell, but I really don't need to know how my sausage is made. If the show is good, then the show is good, and things that happen behind the scenes,
Hen,
unfortunate
hen.
as they may
But
be,
Three
I don't
puppies.
really.
No, three puppies had to die to make your sausage.
meanwhile, I'm just shocked. I mean, is that kosher sausage or is it just,
Yeah.
kind of regular sausage?
Yeah, um, it's not. That's an extreme example, but yeah, sure. If it's something completely like I don't know, like immoral, although I don't know. But I really
It's really
usually
hard to not sound like you are and I get what you
mercenary,
mean, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And
But really, like when I like, there's so many movies and TV shows that had some pretty terrible things happening behind the scenes, and over time, it's the quality of the resulting product or work of art that has remained. I mean, like, I think someone was almost like ran over by a train on Dr. Zhivago. Like, people don't care. People watch the movie.
yeah,
Um,
okay, and
There are interesting ways we could go with this conversation, but we got to keep it on topic.
Yeah, sure. But I'm just saying, all this talk in places like Twitter or even on Reddit to some extent about the logistics of the behind the scenes, I think we're much more qualified to talk about the show as, itself than we are about people losing their jobs and other people gaining jobs.
yeah,
It's outside of the scope of our
yeah,
expertise, really.
yeah,
Um, so yeah.
but my expertise as a sleuth for the show, where we now know updates that apparently 99% of the crew will so just as updates, crew will be axed for season 2, so none of the whole crew is going to be replaced, and of course that might be what my thinking is at the end of Fellowship of Fans, where we start getting those stuff. Let's just say no need to worry around that. I think we will survive anyways, but and and of course another thing is that I remember, even I know we were talking about, I think the last thing I mentioned around the New Zealand cruise, that at the same time we have to fear, of course, it did come out of nowhere. I think if maybe Amazon like had told them earlier, the like not even the New Zealand Film Commission but the workers as well, that you're going to like be losing the jobs in a few months, that would have probably been nicer for Amazon to do. But and also another thing is that I remember on the day before, I was having these New Zealand some New Zealand workers like messaging me asking me if they were gonna able to keep their jobs. I'm like, I don't know how is, because I know a few of them come up just saying, "Hey, Fellowship fans, am I going to keep my job?" And I'm like, it's privileged. I'm privileged enough that people would go to the extent to ask me out of all people, but yeah, and I think how Hayden puts it correctly is that in the end, is it really going to affect how the show is going to look and be different, etc.? Not really. I know some people say, "Oh, this is going to feel so." The community feel the feeling on set, which is a whole different thing. Maybe one day we can talk about that. But the feeling on set is a completely different subject. But apparently, the harmonious feeling on set around all the crew and then the relationship the crew members have with the cast and that going to season 2. But England does have some of the best film crew in the world. Like that's without a doubt. That and I think it is the show is going to be in good. No, I keep saying England, but I mean the UK, and I think it's all safe to say that I think the UK, the Amazon's Lord of the Rings will be in safe hands in the UK. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah. Like I
I
said,
mean, it seems a little
places.
nationalistic for the
Yeah.
Brit to be bragging about the Britain's film industry,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think it's.
Bryn. Yeah, go on.
I mean, I live in a state that's known for its filming in peaches, so I think they should come here. But that's just me.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think the UK has the facilities. It has the, again, as I said, certainly the landscapes. I mean, gorgeous places in Scotland and Ireland, especially Wales as well.
Who knows? And
Um, and yeah, sure. And I want to kind of stay away from the. There is this argument, and I've even heard it being said years ago while the movies were out, that like the UK should have always been the location for Middle Earth because it's based on, because it's myth for England and it's based on England. That doesn't interest me as much as it just looking so impressive and lush and all that stuff. I don't really think that any of us really hold that much stock with the idea that because Tolkien was English and was writing a mythology for England, that Middle Earth should
which
be England.
which was an early motivation of his, which
It
he
was. It
admits as an
was.
older man is kind of ridiculous and
I
rather
don't think I
prideful
don't
of him.
think he let go of it completely. He was still trying to kind of make it work as something that exists in the prehistory of our own world to some extent. But yeah, sure,
Oh, sure, but some
it
things
went through
like
significant metamorphosis, and
yeah,
really the only places in Middle Earth, the finished Middle Earth, unlike early versions where you really like, it's kind of silly really. In the Book of Lost Tales, he basically made England Tolerancea, I think. And he like identifies very specific places in modern day England with places in his story. But in the later in Middle Earth as we have it, the only places that really resemble England are the Shire and like a few places in Eriador, and that's it. Everything else
and
is more continental Europe based.
and
Hey,
how is it like he's being taken by Martians or aliens or something?
Yeah, if he lived in New Zealand, I'd say he was getting flooded or something.
But um, I don't. We can just I'll just cut this bit out. And
All right.
Penguin, you back?
yes, sorry, had a weird issue.
Yeah. Just continue what you're going to say from
So
here.
Okay, well, so I kind of have a different thought on the move away from New Zealand over to England than everyone else. Everyone's discussing COVID. Everyone's talking about is this Amazon the right thing? Oh, they're trying to save a few cents, and I wonder if that's not it. I wonder if COVID is a convenient distraction and an excuse for this. And personally, I kind of wonder if, I mean, let's look at a couple of things. I think Amazon may actually be concerned about the production in of itself, and want to move it to a place where they can keep a closer watch on it, have more control over it, and put it next to existing film resources to help out if needed. Because doesn't Amazon have a couple of filming things going on in England, as well as a couple of dedicated studio facilities over there by now?
Yeah, like Good Omens, I think, is filming his Sandman as well. I think they're
Okay.
both Neil
Yeah.
Gaiman shows, so yeah.
So what makes me think that is just we've got the relative inexperience of the showrunners for one. They only have a script of an unproduced Star Trek movie to their name. It would be like, I don't know, handing over control of the Normandy invasion in World War II to a fresh lieutenant right out of whatever military your local military academy. That. So you've got some experience there. We've had rumors about a lot of injuries on set. You've kind of shared some stuff. Porn has said a few things. That could be a factor in it. Very long work days. So in the end, then the other thing that makes me think this is over a year for post-production. That just seems pretty big. We also, and I don't remember now whether it was you or Torn, but basically reported that they were beginning post-production on material as soon as it was shot.
Yeah, that was
so
us.
in some cases, so in some cases you have maybe 18 months to 2 years of post-production. And so then around the same time Amazon announces that they're moving something overseas, they tell us it's going to be a year until we see it, but then they also distract us with the two trees, which is something none of us thought we'd ever expect to see. I mean, I've always kind of been in the camp that says, hey, if you're working with the estate, ask them for first stage material to expand the backstory. And lo and behold, Amazon opens with the two freaking trees. So it just seems like a fantastic way to distract people, along with a convenient excuse to kind of hide the fact that they may have a mess on their hands. Now, I mean,
I agree
with
a lot of what you said, especially about the location and stuff. But JD Payne and Patrick McKay, they're not necessarily the most experienced people out there, but they're not as bad as they seem, or as bad as a lot of people make them seem. They weren't attached to Star Wars. It was Star Trek, but I mean, potato. That's basically the same thing. They're both, I think most people would agree, ruined franchises.
A million nerds have just gotten angry at you for conflating those, but carry on.
Yeah, well, fair enough. And they also wrote a script for Jungle Cruise, which whoever selects the script, I've got no clue who that is, just didn't go with it. And that does seem like not much experience at all, but they also told J.D. Payne, actually not Patrick McKay, he told MormonArtist.com, Star Trek will be our approximately 17th script from the first one we wrote when we were in college, our 10th from the time we got agency representation, though only 7 of those have been in development at a production company and studio. We haven't yet written a feature script that has actually been filmed. And that was about 7 years ago, so they've probably gotten more experience since. And as to why none of their scripts have been produced, what he said is a little bit confusing, but we do know that the rejection rate for scripts in Hollywood is actually really high. Some say 8 and 10 are rejected, others 12 and 13. But either way, especially given that perhaps just 7 have actually been in development at a production company. 7 being rejected does not look nearly as bad as a lot of people make it seem.
I'm not faulting them for not having scripts or for not the scripts. I mean, I'm sure they can write. I'm sure they can put together great scripts. But I'm just saying, overseeing the such a massive undertaking when you don't have any experience, that's what I'm expressing concern about. So if you're Amazon and you're spending $1 billion on this thing, sure, even to Amazon, that's a big chunk of change. Amazon currently is also staring at a $750 million fine from the from the EU for violating something in the GDPR, the data protection law over there. So that's still real money, and even if things aren't a disaster, it could still be enough of a concern to warrant saying, well, let's move something closer to where we have other resources that can help, and to maintain a closer oversight on this. So, for example, if you're some higher up in the studio side and you feel the need to go take a look and see for yourself how things are on set, just call it a site inspection. It's a whole lot easier to fly over to England from your headquarters in Los Angeles than it is to fly to New Zealand, sit in a hotel room for 14 days, and then go about the island on your inspection.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and
I'm not claiming things are a disaster, but there's just little things that concern me. That would seem concerning from Amazon Studios' perspective.
yeah, but to put a positive spin on that, we've also heard recently as well that this cool. I haven't made this said this yet, but it just like that. It looks like on set JD Payne and Patrick McKay are both. It seems like really passionate about Lord of the Rings, etc. And that crew members have still the thing they said that they think the show or us fans are in good hands with them. So maybe that's the more positive spin on that. But of course, there's always cause for concern when, of course, no matter how big the show is, and then you have maybe someone not as experienced taking the helm of it. As always, it's reasonable to have that cause of concern, but I think
I'm not saying that it is. I am just kind of, when everyone else is looking at one thing and kind of makes me, and when I see everyone looking another way, I tend to think, okay, that's valid, but why don't we look over here and look at the stone, uncover the stone that everyone else is ignoring? If it's just kind of a perfect storm. If you wanted to cover for, a problematic production, then blaming it on COVID is the great way to do it. I mean, you already have the secrecy. Why not
They haven't really done that
as
yet.
of right now, there
all
is
speculation and rumor, really.
But
I guess, to be fair to Fellowship,
I'd like to say to Penguin right now, as of right now, there are no clear indications publicly that there is cause for concern on the set. Maybe except from those crew, those what are they called? Stunt performers. There you go. The stunt performers falling off stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't. Maybe let's say you could easily make that argument. Maybe like 3, 5, 6 months time, when potentially maybe some stuff comes out in the future as well. And of course, with the moving to New Zealand, England thing, another thing that I mentioned, revealed, was that New Zealand regulator board investigation, which basically pissed off Amazon, and they didn't want that even to happen in the first place, which also was another one of the big reasons that they wanted to move as well. Because in England, UK, they're to the productions here, they are basically going to be much more lenient. It seems like that. But I think we've covered, unless anyone has any more final thoughts, I'm sure there are. But I think...
Well, I think Penguin's chair is trying to say something.
Yeah. Either his chair or his door. I'm not sure which one. But...
It's my chair. I need to replace it.
Yeah. But...
Mine's a bit squeaky too, so I can't really speak much about that.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a good point now to move on to the other thing, which is the nature of Middle Earth, and this has caused some interesting things because I think this podcast will come out after it's come out. I think September 2nd is the provisional main date, worldwide date. I'm not sure the technicalities around that, but this book has caused some interesting discussion and stuff being revealed. For example, I think one of the better things that is like I think shown, which could be handy for the show. I think something around. I'll have the exact passage on screen, but we don't have reference to it on us right now. But it was in the demo version or the preview version that came out. Something about that, like other, like for example Numenorean kings, they could have had like siblings, etc., but if they didn't do anything noticeable, then they wouldn't have been noted and stuff like that. So stuff like that, that would be quite interesting. But what's can I start with you? What's like the opinion of the nature of Middle Earth so far?
Future Middle Earth. About it.
Oh my.
All right, I'll jump in since he wasn't paying attention. The excerpts
Yeah.
I've read have been
read the
interesting. Okay, all right, yeah. I mean, it's just we're just kind of like, okay, we've read a little bit of something. The things that jumped out to me, I think, were the explanation of the elves' journey westward, and then how they seriously would say, well, we're going to stop because we all want to bone and have children. And so they'd stay in one place for 10 years and, get busy. And then they'd move on.
And I think I'd say my opinion on this, and I've already said it probably in a private chat, I think it's public, but I think it's just further proof that we need a NIV for some Lord of the Rings books, because a lot of people really just don't understand it. I don't know if it's trouble with the English language or just that they want to project themselves or a piece of their identity into the book they're reading, but a lot of people are also misunderstanding what the Nature of Middle Earth says, and that's also
are you
not,
talking about
not
the
much.
whole like love brother thing? Which
Yeah.
I read that, I was like, oh, okay, so they've got really close friends and a bromance or whatever. And people said, look, same sex attraction, they're gay.
We found it. Yes.
It's
Yes,
like,
absolute proof.
yeah.
And I'm just, it just cracks me up how there seems just to be a significant overlap between the toxic masculinity, men can't have close friends, and all close male friendships are gay. Or what? Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get canceled for this.
It's
in 10
like in
years.
the Children of Hurin. I think Turin and Belaga are said to have tries, and people read it all wrong.
Yeah,
And
they
I'm
can.
sure,
Don't they?
but then
I
those
mean,
same people, but those same people are also recognize that when on the Fellowship, when they're on the slopes of Caradras are freezing, they're not, and they say, well, bring a faggot of wood. They're not throwing, literal homosexuals onto the fire to burn to keep warm. And I'm like, okay, how can you jump at one possible interpretation of the word here, but don't do the same right here?
and you have to understand both the context of the place and time where the story would be written. Of course, it's in some books it sort of is written in like our Earth, but it was written in like the 1930s and way even before that. If you're talking like some of the other books of Middle Earth, so in the Bible, you might read some of what they did, like kissing each other's cheeks, and a lot of times they did also, I think, in those times, like swear on each other's hips, and they did a lot of stuff which today would be considered very weird, but back then it had no homosexual or just sexual connotations at all. And I think the same thing sort of applicable with the rings with
Yeah, sure.
I don't know, kissing your friend on the cheek or something like that.
Yeah, and I think this podcast is taking quite an interesting turn, but actually maybe not at the same time because of the nature of Middle Earth. But I think all in all, even when I'm looking at the first thing, something, how many chapters, all this numbers, statistics, this and that as well. So Are any of you going to be buying it? Getting it from the library?
Eventually,
Definitely will be.
I've got
I'm
I still haven't read through a couple of those volumes, so probably should play catch up on what I haven't read before I add to that.
Yeah, and I think just from the way it has been released with that as well, Nature Midlife. If you want to read it, you can read it. I think, of course, a lot of us would be interested in that type of details. Of course, it's not going to be a book or thing that this is going to like be everyone's going to read it, etc. Because it's got like the details mentioned are so niche and acute to the point that it's only gonna target a certain amount of people that would be willing to see how much are the elven years of pregnancies and stuff like that. But for us though, and for probably a lot of you watching, it will be a must buy. And this is not a sponsorship deal. I haven't been told by I think it's Carl F. Foster. Is that the author's name? Carl F. or something along those lines.
yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, Carl Life Foster. There's not a sponsorship deal. If so, it wouldn't have been the 45th minute of a podcast. But I
You
think,
know, I just
yeah, go on.
you go ahead.
No, go on.
No, you go on.
No, you go on.
All right, so I guess I
So
will.
basically, what I was trying to
It's
say
not
is
much.
that that yeah, I'm actually seriously go on.
All right. I can't wait till I get an Audible sponsorship because for those of you who don't know, Audible is I don't even know what you call it. Like they read out the books and stuff like that. They've got narrations for stuff, and they're owned by Amazon. So, you know, I've had a couple of people, and thankfully I can count them on one hand, who have told me I'm like a woke shill hired by Amazon, stuff like that, which makes me laugh to say the least. But I think it'd be very amusing if I was actually sponsored by Amazon in a
Yeah,
different way.
I think the last thing
I'm sure it wouldn't be connected to the show.
yeah.
See,
Definitely.
if I
There's
were to
no
describe
way.
you, it would be woke and chill.
Yes, definitely. That's
You
me.
know, that just fits you to a T.
And I think regarding sponsorship deals on Amazon, I don't think after what we've recently personally heard, I don't think Amazon will be dishing me out any sponsorship deals anytime soon, and probably some other stuff instead. Which
Well, there's one. They might cease and desist.
yeah, I might get a cease and desist on my door, but I don't get how that could work because I'm not doing anything um technically legal, am I? That is journalistic integrity.
Well, I
Well, what?
mean, you don't need to do something illegal to get paid
Yeah,
by
no,
like
yeah, cease and
Bezos.
desist. Yeah, exactly.
Look back like a year, more than a year now, to when that photo got struck.
Mm-hmm. And maybe it could be
I
like
don't
a
think that was
Netflix documentary, Fellowship of Fans versus
Amazon.
Amazon. Uh,
Mhm.
but I think, yeah, um, but I think getting away from that now. Overall, final thoughts on the nature of Middle Earth. It does seem to be like a really detailed book with some interesting new stuff as well. So if you want to go check it out,
Geography.
yeah, geography as well, indeed. And another thing, I think we've covered most things recently, and of course, we, of course, stuff that I've recently released. I'm not sure what I have released probably when this comes out, but I think as of right now, we're going into September, and then we have got in December. People may be thinking a trailer around then, after getting this picture released. But when do you guys? Cause that's the thing I guess asked a lot. When do you think we'll see a trailer? Now knowing that the release date is September 2nd, when do you think we'll get our first little glimpse?
I stand by what I said a few months ago when I was wrong about the release date of the show. And that said, I think it'll probably come out sometime at or before January or February of 2022.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Penguin can enlighten us on some hidden things that us marketers wouldn't know?
I mean, it comes down to it's all about the marketing hype cycle. You want to grow and nurture that hype, and so that the show releases at the when that hype is at its peak. Typically, with movies, that's the marketing really usually kicks off about 6 months. With streaming productions, it's usually much shorter because those have a far longer window of release. For example, I can sign up for Netflix for the first time today and start watching something like Stranger Things. So it's not like something has a limited theatrical run. I would say I honestly think we'd see the first actual trailer in May, but that wouldn't be but I imagine they kick off marketing with officially dripping information prior to that.
And I think maybe September 22nd is the closest thing, which I think is Hobbit Day. I think that's the closest thing we'll get maybe to release. Of course, the 1 year thing, which is September 2nd. And again, we're doing another problem that we've done with the Nerd of the Rings podcast, which hasn't even come out yet, that is releasing it before. This will come out after September 2nd. So again, you'll probably know if Amazon did release something. But hey, soon is going to be a year until the show comes out. So, well, exactly. And I think we've already covered how we don't probably mind, but I'm sure some people do around the release day, and that's fair enough, I suppose. And one other interesting thing I wanted to mention is that also with the rights in which Amazon have, I think that it's an interesting one still now, because I remember from like years and years ago we were saying, oh, from the maps that they released, was it the structure of Numenor, stuff like that, would have been in a finished tiles, etc. So like I think having it's interesting to see what amount of work Amazon have licensed, because Penguin, you mentioned a really good thing that I actually agree with, like 250 million. It does seem like Amazon would have had to get something quite big in order to like result that massive fee, if you get what I mean.
Yes, they would. Yeah, you're spending a ton of money, so you expect to make a ton of money. I mean, that just kind of goes with the territory.
And it's just interesting to see maybe in the future, because I've always gone on with my thing about getting an Angband show, and I'm not sure rights wise how that works. I know the stuff is it in the appendices, a lot of that.
You're talking about the franchise and potential spin-offs, right?
Yeah, I'm just going off on this a conundrum.
Well, I mean, we are living in an age that is dominated by franchises. I think most major releases are sequels or reboots or other iterations on known existing franchises. So, of course, the most famous and biggest franchise right now is Marvel. They've had, I think, 20 something movies. They're now having spin-off shows that are tied into it. So, I think Amazon has to be watching that carefully and thinking, okay, how can we do the same? You've got this big brand in the form of Middle Earth, so what can you do with it? Well, you're working on the second age, and whatever they end up doing, whether they cover all of it, part of it, or zoom in on one particular part of it, who knows? We'll see. But what do you go from there? If you tell part of it, do you tell other parts? Do you make a ploy to move backwards into the Silmarillion? Do you try to move forward to, say, like the Angmar Wars? I mean, and sure, it's Third Age, but there's less information on that than there is on all the events of the Second Age. I mean, everything we know about Angmar and Arnor is pretty much found in the Tale of Years and the appendices. It's not much information.
Right. The Third Age is trickier too.
Yeah, and then of course there's the whole question, which we don't need to rehash, we had a big discussion on it. It's the do you connect to the movies or not?
Yeah.
If you do, well, then you've basically written off ever touching on Tolkien's two most well-known narratives. But if you try to tiptoe around that continuity question, at least right now, you leave that window open, which is kind of what I expect them to do.
And I'm sure that a lot of that was covered on the previous podcast as well, but it's still such an interesting question even now around that as well. Let's make a Middle Earth one up. I think normally with those ones it's where would you live, I guess. And here's an interesting
Oh, come
one.
on.
No. Here's a
I'd
better
live
one.
with Eru Iluvatar
Come on.
out like heckin' universe, you know?
Okay. Would you
Easy choice.
would you rather live in the first age or the third age, knowing that maybe in the first age you'd be constantly under maybe a threat a lot of the times, a lot of things going on. But third age happens periodically. Remember, you are what's it called? Not inevitable, invincible, whatever, something like that. So, would you rather live in the
Well, where
third
are we
age?
gonna be born?
Pardon?
Like anywhere? Is it kind of like
Any-
is
I
it like
mean,
a
it's-
roulette? We don't know where we're gonna, I guess,
No.
spawn in.
Okay.
I'd probably say
yep.
third age. First age was horrible.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they said. But first age is terrible.
Except I would have the power of prophecy because I've read all the stuff that's going to happen in the first stage, so I could single-handedly slay Melkor with a pickaxe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've got. Yeah, go on. Add your 2 cents, Penguin.
You are going to go up to his gates and say, "Come forward, thou coward, jail crow," or no, I'm sorry, that's Fëanor. Oh well. For me, what I would do is definitely do the third age, and keeping in line with what Galthane said about having the prophecies. Well, guess what? I'd go to Sauron and say, "Listen, just put a door over Mount Doom, and everything will be fine."
A big
And
door over
he'll
Mount Doom.
probably be so impressed with me that he'll yank the ring from the Witch King, give it to me, and then I could be an immortal guy flying around on my fell beast. And I mean, it would be a pretty solid gig.
Yeah, good career.
Yeah.
That's
No
right.
free will, but that's a small price to pay for your own Eagle 2.0.
That's for eggs. Hey, man, if you can, I'm sure he lets his guys take occasional days off. I mean, especially now that he's conquered all of Middle Earth. I mean, I'd have all the free time in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You actually would. Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's plenty of times when the Nazgul had nothing to do.
Right?
Yep.
I mean,
I-
think of all the board games you could make and play. And
Mm-hmm.
man, I'm starting to get jealous now.
But here is another one which I think is a really easy one to answer. Would you rather see the Forging of the Rings or the Excalibur? Hen, let's start off with you.
Forging of the Ring is a better story. That is all.
No, that's a joke. I'm not starting. We'll be going for another hour. That was
I've always,
yeah.
I mean, in my case,
from the heavenly halls of Eru.
I've always had a thing for like those big disaster movies, whether it's Independence Day and seeing the aliens just blow up all the major cities, or Day After Tomorrow. I mean, sure. I mean, most of the plot and acting is horrendous, but I've always enjoyed the spectacle of those shots. So let's go with Numenor. I mean, now am I safely watching this from like
It's Titanic, except the land is the one that drowns.
pretty much in Soviet Russia, land drowns you.
What the hell was that? I'm gonna whistle in my ears.
I think I broke in.
I think you malfunctioned. Okay. Here's another one. Would you rather have to always wear heavy boots or have to never be able to wear shoes? So never wear shoes or always have to wear heavy boots for the rest of your life.
So it's basically, would you rather be a dwarf or a hobbit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I feel like Legolas, he does wear slippers. So aren't shoes. They don't count as shoes. Flip flops too. From the south, so I always wear those anyway. I really don't think
we wear
wearing those shoes would affect me.
We wear. I mean, I never put my flip flops away, even in the coldest month of the year. There's days where it could be 70 degrees outside and pleasant, or it could be 25 degrees and below freezing. But I always leave my flip flops out right by. Yeah, I always leave my flip flops right by the front door because you never know. So,
amen.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I'll tell you tomorrow.
Yeah, Ken, you're the best person at just dodging. I've noticed.
No, I think it's a tricky question because I hate boots and I like being barefoot. At the same time, I live in the Middle East and it gets kind of hot here. So walking outside on a hot day on the pavement.
Okay.
it's the sand. It's rough. It's the sand, right? It's rough and it's coarse and it gets everywhere.
Yeah, probably not.
Sorry, I was just plugging the line from Anakin for our amusement. Okay.
No, I've been unfortunate enough to see that movie. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
But I don't know. I guess I'd go with barefoot.
Fahad, maybe this might be easier for you, Christian. Would you rather only be able to communicate with animals or only be able to communicate with people from another country?
Oh, from another country, it is.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference?
Animals, but sure.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Ow. Well, okay. Oh my god. Okay.
I'm glad I'm glad that my comment just kind of slipped through.
No, yeah, we understand it.
Yeah. Hopefully they won't hear it.
Yeah. Okay. Last one.
I didn't hear anything. I don't know what y'all heard, but I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, I totally didn't hear anything. Okay, last one. Would you rather have to make a 1-minute speech in front of 10,000 people or have to kiss a frog? It's a question.
10,000 people. Can you imagine? I mean, is that like 10,000 free views or something?
You're at a stadium. Let's say, what's the American stadium? The Super Bowl stadium. You do it at the Super Bowl stadium, and then.
Well, that'd be way more than 10,000 people.
Mm-hmm. That'd be half the entire country.
Technically, that's what me and Gallifane do, kinda.
Well, but they can see you. They can see your face. You're televised. All the other stuff.
Amazon
Yeah, if you mess up, then you're gonna be made into a joke, a meme, and everyone's gonna hate you for the rest of your life.
Well, but they could also become a meme, and now you can act through blockchain. What's the word I'm looking for?
Actually,
the NFT or whatever for images and so forth. Hey, if you become a meme, you could register that, and then you can charge other people for it. So why not?
I actually am already a meme. It's one meme on not a too small of a subreddit. Okay, buddy, Tolkien. It's probably going to get removed for racism soon because, from what I hear, it's pretty bad. But and just bigotry in general. But I am a meme there. I posted like a year ago or something.
Hey, congratulations!
Well done.
Super proud of myself.
Yeah. Okay, take your chances against Shelob or a Ringwraith.
Shelob.
Shelob?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm screwed either way unless I've got like some special file, like someone had.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm gonna straight up join with those rates. I'm gonna be like, hey man, Shire, it's that way. Bilbo, he's the chunky little eccentric, and if I could tell them, oh yeah, Frodo, he's wandering around the woods. If you meet, he'll be here at this point. You know how I know this? Because I've read the books. I've read the prophecies.
Cross the river quicker. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
when you come to the ford outside of Rivendell, wear the little yellow floaties around your arms, and you'll be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's actually a canonical basis in the Ringwraiths trusting you, because Farmer Mag, granted they didn't want to kill him because secrecy and all that stuff, but I mean they talked to him civilly enough. They offered him gold. and maybe they were going to come back and just kill him, although I doubt that, because again, secrecy. They maybe wouldn't have given him gold, but still, I think that's a little bit immaterial.
Yeah.
And I think I promise this will be the last two. Cause I'm keep adding more, but rather be crushed under the horses of the Rohirrim or burned alive by a Balrog.
Hmm.
So I'd be crushed, trampled by horses, or burnt alive. Okay, and maybe putting it like that. Let's go to save Merry and Pippin or Legolas and Gimli in a battle. You have to save a pair. Which one?
Well, if we're talking, well, let's see. And if we're going by the movies, Gimli is incompetent. So, if you save him now, you're just going to have to save him later. But Legolas is actually useful. And then on the other hand, Merry and Pippin are kind of useless in the movies, but at least you're going to have a good time with them. So, Merry and Pippin, obviously. If we're going by the books, Gimli is, very different, but he's also kind of a bit wordy. Whereas, Gimli, Merry, and Pippin still know how to have a good time. So yeah, I'll save them. I'll save them both instances.
I think that is really good scholarly. I think take on that personally, and I hope that the last 10-15 minutes.
You should start calling me Dr. Penguin,
Dr.
PhD.
Penguin. Yeah, I hope from the last 15.
Put it in your Twitter bio.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like I've got that PNG of thumbnail studies.
That's
I'm
an
very
excellent
proud of it.
Yeah, that's an excellent
Hey
one.
there, I've got a PNG in thumbnail studies. What's your name? Did I mention I've got a PNG in thumbnail studies?
But I hope the last 15 minutes were, on a scholarly level. And I can just tell Ken, who's probably the closest to a scholar here, is just cringing, aren't you?
I'm a scholar. I think so. So yeah, sure, I'm cringing.
Fine.
I think scholarship and academics and that sort of thing is a very noble and admirable aim and status and everything. So sure.
Well done, Gallifreyan. You offended Ken.
Oh, who else is a scholar, by the way?
Who?
Cast member Lenny Henry has a doctorate and not one of those fake kind of honorary doctorate. He has a legitimate doctorate from I can't remember the university, and he has a position in Cambridge and everything.
Yeah. To clarify, I think it is really cool if you do a PhD or anything like that. As long as you're not as long as it doesn't become your name.
So I think that's about it. Firstly, thank you, Ken.
Oh, not a problem. It's always fun.
Also, thank you to Talking to you, BK Gallifreyan. All his links will be in the description below.
Great to be here as per usual.
Indeed, and finally, thank you to Mr. Penguin Poppins.
Thanks for letting me back on, despite the public outcry from my last appearance.
Indeed, I got a few messages around that, but thank you guys importantly for watching. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. But until the next podcast and video, my friends, goodbye.